I walked into Asteroid City sober, and I left feeling the same exact way I did at EDC Vegas, high on multiple tabs of acid and really fucking sweaty. And you know what? I'd do it again. Now that's not to say the movie wasn't confusing. I spent a good chunk in the theater wondering what the hell is going on, and I'm sure I wasn't alone. The movie opens up in black and white, where a TV host tells us that we're getting a backstage look at the production of a play called Asteroid City.
Yeah, Chen, I know what you're saying. When I first started watching Wes a few years back, I had the same feeling a couple times. One of the things he loves to address is the idea of art as it relates to life and the artists themselves. The whole movie being framed as a production within a production definitely sent that home. You notice the visual lens changes to underline that if you see the film. What is the production is black and white, and what we're actually seeing as the play put on is in color. It's an interesting take on the whole concept, and it's a topic that's become more popular in recent years, so I get why he'd go back to it. A lot of the characters reflect the humanity underneath, right? The people who actually play them and contributed to the production in general. That's hit a few different times.
So the actual play is set in a fictional Southwest desert town called, you guessed it, Asteroid City, circa 1955. Augie Steenbeck, a war photographer whose wife has just recently died, pulls up to town with his 4 children to attend the Junior Stargazer Convention, which will honor a handful of genius children for their amazing inventions, one of whom happens to be Augie's son, Woodrow. The small town, which usually has a population of 87, suddenly becomes a temporary home for a variety of characters, like this world-famous actress played by ScarJo, this random cowboy band, this group of school children led by Maya Hawke, and of course, the parents of the other kids involved in the convention.
They're strange, aren't they? They're children, compared to normal people.
Yes, that's correct.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, similar to some of his other works, this focuses a lot on precocious kids who happen to be a little odd. Think of them as like quote unquote gifted kids on steroids, right? The variety of personality and the overall community that they find within one another is really cool. It can be lonely out there for a young genius. However, Grace Edwards and Jake Ryan did a fantastic job developing chemistry, and there were definite shades of Moonrise Kingdom at a lot of moments between the cast of kids.
So basically, Asteroid City is a movie about a TV show following a play or something like that. Like I said, this shit felt like an acid trip. But despite being in a constant state of confusion, the movie still managed to grab my attention and hold it. The set pieces were so cool and quirky. I felt myself laughing out loud whenever I got introduced to a cool new set piece. Like, look at this. I don't even know what the point of this was, but it's just funny and provocative.
It's provocative.
This old school diner had me feeling nostalgic about the 50s and 60s when objectively that was a pretty bad time, especially for a minority like myself. The diner also low-key gave me the munchies. It's to the point where I wonder if Wes Anderson has figured out a way to make us feel the effects of drugs just through his filmmaking. I mean, look at this 50s style diner. Fried chicken, hot cakes, eggs, bacon, homemade pies, soda pop, milkshakes, spare ribs. I'm getting hungry just as I'm recording this. And there's something about the word supper that just makes everything sound so much more delicious. This drink machine is also pretty cool. And in addition to the set pieces, the colors in Asteroid City were downright gorgeous. The bright, vivid pastels were like candy to my eyes, and oftentimes I was hoping they would just pause the film so I could take a closer look and really appreciate everything. Now, at this point, I've read a shit ton of reviews about the movie, and I've surfed Reddit boards and comment sections endlessly, so I've put together that grief is a major emotion that is explored in this movie. How do we process it? How do we move on from it? Do we move on from it? But when I was in the theater, I felt a roller coaster of emotions that went beyond just grief.
Yeah, the man loves to look at human connections and the human condition as it pertains to all of us, whether it's grief, happiness, unhappiness, romance, and family, for better or worse. His movies do a profoundly simple way of communicating some of these topics.
Then why'd she ask you to leave?
I don't really know anymore. Maybe I wasn't as true to her as I could have been.
Yeah, there were moments where I felt sad, empty, hopeless, and even downright nihilistic, but there were also moments where I felt optimistic, happy, enlightened, and somewhat at peace. Underneath the greater theme of processing grief, there were cool other little topics being explored, such as acceptance. Here you have the super genius kids who obviously are outcasts in their own hometowns, finding a community amongst one another. You also get the parallel storyline of young love layered onto the loss of love, layered on top of older love. And plus, you get this kid, one of my favorite characters in the movie.
There's still only 9 planets in the solar system as far as we know, Billy.
Except now there's an alien.
Yeah, whatever they're paying that kid, they better triple it. The story was written by Wes and Roman Coppola, who is Francis Ford Coppola's son. This isn't their first time collabing, and the dude's actually Jason Schwartzman's cousin, which is also kind of cool. Sometimes nepotism actually pays off for the consumer. Guy is pretty talented. Key characters, I mean, Schwartzman kills it. All right, he is an Andersonian staple, and that sounds a little pretentious, but I'm just going to roll with it. If he represents the emotional core of what we're seeing here, and he's the focus of a lot of the film, he and his family, especially his son, portrayed by newcomer Jake Ryan, are the primary vehicle for the surface level of grief. ScarJo plays a tragic yet magnetic figure. She was excellent. Her measured depiction of someone who's really been through a ton while also being a bit self-involved fits perfectly with Wes's frequent portrayal of romance. A situation where two halves come together to make a whole, the two halves generally being damaged yet intriguing individuals who, for better or worse, are drawn to each other. We've all got an ex or two that might fall into that category. Adrien Brody, per scene, delivered maybe one of the most valuable performances of the movie. The work hard, play hard director who took inspiration for his role from a lot of classic Hollywood figures and Wes himself. Read the article in the video description if you want to learn more about that. His performance to me was just straight up scene stealing. Wes always brings the best out of him. Steve Carell did a tremendous job as Bill Murray's COVID replacement. I want to see him in more roles like this. He brought a little bit of Michael Scott, but also the necessary comedic relief and brought a little element of Gustav H. from Grand Budapest, albeit with less glamorous and ostentatious delivery.
You see, there are still faint glimmers of civilization left in this barbaric slaughterhouse that was once known as humanity.
Jeffrey Wright as the general was clutch. I mean, his no-nonsense delivery and his demeanor in general were incredibly entertaining, and he's got to have one of the funniest monologues I've ever heard in a Wes Anderson film.
Chapter 1. I walked to school 18 miles each morning, milked the goats, plucked the chickens, played hooky, caught fireflies.
He's essential here. It's a movie that seems light and comedic at times, but it grows heavier as your mind runs through the deeper layers.
What's out there? The meaning of life. Maybe there is one.
If you're an overthinker like me, you're going to laugh at first, then you're going to spend the next couple of sleepless nights pondering the connection between the certain characters, the meta context of the film, within a film, the underlying emotion, until you look up and it's 5 a.m. and it's time to do it all over again. If you were to come at this movie from a critical lens, you might say that the movie feels like an inside joke. If you're not somebody who's seen a ton of Wes before, some of these tropes, whether it's the plainly simple idiosyncratic dialogue.
Why?
I'm a photographer.
You didn't ask permission.
I never ask permission.
Whether it's the feature of the meta aspect, whether it's the bright colors, the use of miniatures, whatever it is you have issue with, it's all over this movie, for better or worse. The plot also isn't super inspiring after the first two acts if you're not trying to appreciate it in a different manner. I mean, I think the beauty of this is that you can watch this movie on either level and enjoy the film in your own way. To me, it ranks just above Life Aquatic and French Dispatch. It lets Wes bring familiar themes to life in new ways. If you adore his films, or if you are repulsed at the very sight of his over-the-top set symmetry, you still have to admit this is art. No franchise behind it, no played-out IP, just an original production pulling back the curtain on the human condition, creative endeavors, hinting at the unknown, what can we control, what can we cannot, throughout this unpredictable journey of life. Sorry that was written like a mixture between a Hallmark movie description and a bad astrology reading, but I'm doing what I can here.
Yeah, incredible analysis, Damon. I'll conclude by saying this. I understand why Asteroid City got the mixed reviews it did, because it might not be what you're looking for, as Damon mentioned, even by Wes Anderson standards. But for me, I had a fun-ass time. It was entertaining and definitely worth a rewatch. Also, I've only seen one Wes Anderson film prior to Asteroid City, which was The Royal Tenenbaums. And since viewing Asteroid City, I've seen two more Wes Anderson films in Grand Budapest Hotel and The Fantastic Mr. Fox. So it definitely got me even more into his work. With that being said, thanks for checking us out. We'll catch y'all later.